Aloha, friends and family. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Embodied Healing Self. So I have with me this week the beautiful Katie Kozlowski, creator of the Shakti Bomb method. I know you guys are super excited to hear about what that could be. She's really proud of me for saying her name correctly. I could just saw a big smile on her face. So thank you for listening in this week. Katie is a master energy coach. She's a transformational powerhouse and the creator of the Shakti Bomb method, which works with the sacred feminine energy in simple and relatable ways and teaches how to become your own creative powerhouse. So I'm really excited to dive into some sacred feminine energy work. And I'm going to invite her to share a little bit about her journey, which took her from rock bottom in her life to becoming the creator of these tools and this method to help other women heal their divine feminine. And we're going to talk about things from healing trauma to healing shame and the importance of the time that we're living in right now. We were just talking about this before we started recording. We are really, really deeply in just a deep healing of the collective divine feminine right now. Like we're really at the beginning of like a new wave of energy that's coming through. So I'm really excited to share her. In fact, we were supposed to record a couple weeks ago, and in the divine feminine flow I was actually in my own divine healing, week or two, and I requested, can we just reschedule? And she just had the sweetest response around, offering just to help me to move through it. And it just felt really good for me to ask permission for what I needed and to be held and seen in that and to be honored by another woman around this. So thank you, Katie, for your patience. Thank you for your grace. Thank you for your teachings. And thank you for being here on the show with me today.
Thank you. What a beautiful introduction. I'm
for a
honored.
Beautiful lady with
I'm feeling very beautiful. It's funny, and that sounds like sort of like I'm feeling beautiful. But it's such an interesting journey. We're talking about embodiment and self-acceptance and everything. And it's like, man, I have felt every single way about myself in my life. Like I have hated myself. I have ripped myself apart. And something has shifted in me where I really have caught up with, just like my own self. And I'm like, I feel so good. And it's so nice because for a change, because it really wasn't like, I had the claws out for a long time.
Yeah, I really feel that. I feel that in you. And I really resonate with that. I'm in a point in my life too, where I'm really noticing that a lot of the inner work that I've done is providing me a lot of freedom and self-acceptance. And it just feels really, really good. And I know you and I want that for all women. So I'm really excited to share your journey, your methods, and the teachings that you have that I see are just so powerful on a collective level. So I want to just start by just inviting you to share. Well, actually, I want to start by inviting you to share just kind of some fun facts about yourself. Like just a little, what do you enjoy doing and where you live? Yeah, just a couple fun facts.
Yeah, well, so some of the fun facts. I live in Connecticut. I grew up in Connecticut. I look like a California girl or like a Hawaii, like I should live on a tropical island, but I grew up in Connecticut. I am a Connecticut girl through and through. My mother was from California, and so I was raised by a sun worshiper, and my mother is very beautiful. And so I was brought up that way. So a lot of times people think, oh, you must be from California. I'm like, no, but I was raised by my mother and she's from California. So I have this vibe, right? But I live in Connecticut. I live here on the water, which is great. Perfect sort of happy ending for someone who I lived in New York City for 13 years. I started as an actress. And now I live here on the water. There's I got a paddle board. I can hop on my board and take myself out to the islands. And that's really what I do. Like my life is pretty simple. I'm not that complicated when it comes to hobbies. Like I love stuff like that. I like cooking and I like being in nature and I like exercising, and that's it. Like, I like to watch good TV sometimes.
Another ocean goddess. I'm an ocean goddess myself.
I have a lot of, like I'm oceany, but I'm also, I'm like, I'm very, like, I'm much more earthy than I ever realized.
Mm.
Like I didn't see that in myself. And I'm like, I am always outside. I am a sun goddess, I would
Mm.
say. I am a worshiper of the sun first, water second, but I do love
Mm.
the water. I like to be on the water in the sun.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes, me too. Yes, it's a beautiful, beautiful combination. I am with you on that, sister.
Yeah.
So, when I hear you sharing a little bit about yourself from actor in New York City
Hmm.
to the coaching that you do now, the deep healing for the divine feminine, can you take us on a little journey of how you went from there to where you are now? I know most of the guests on my show, they have some type of experience in their life that really sets or creates the course for the work that they are really here to do, to be
Right.
really in their power and their authentic self. So share with us a little bit about what that journey was like for you.
Yeah. I mean, it's really quite simple when you think of it. Um, so the actress, right? Like I started as an actress and I trained in musical theater, lived in New York City, and that's a wonderful career, but it's also, there's a lot of pressure because you get typecast, right? It's all about what you look like. It's all about your body. It's all about, there's just so much pressure to perform and to be a certain way. And I was really struggling because I did not like the fact that I was typecast as the dumb blonde and the whore. Like I really didn't like that. Really, really bothered me. And I would always be like, yeah, but I want to be the ingenue. I want to be something else. Don't tell me that's who I am. And they're like, yeah, but that's what you look like. So that's what you have to play, right? That's you. And it really like was something that was I never quite like, it never sat right with me. And I had a lot of almost hatred towards myself because I didn't want to have to play that part. And so at the same time, I needed to pay my bills. And so, of course, what did I do? I was a spokesmodel. So I got paid a lot of money. I got paid very well to walk around and look cute and sell alcohol. And so I was like a little doll. Like they would dress me up and I would go and I would smile and I would, serve the liquor and take pictures with people, and got paid very well for it. And so that was sort of the synthesis of this. And then after that, I became a voiceover artist, which I loved because I was like, yes, for the first time in my life, no one knows what I look like. Like they hire me based on my voice. No one knows, no one sees me. So I didn't have the struggle of that. And so that was kind of how I transitioned into the voiceover work. But at the same time, I was struggling, with myself, my body, drinking too much, abusive men, like a lot of challenges in my life. And the thing that changed my life was I actually got hit by a taxi in New York City. And when I got hit by the taxi, it was one of those, I was working and I had a boyfriend and he stood me up. And when he didn't show up that night, the sort of the lack of self-worth was so awful that I literally started imagining like, well, if I died, would anyone care? No one would care. Like no one would even notice. Like, and then this taxi came and just creamed me. Perfect timing. And the truth is that I saw the car coming and I was like, you know what? I don't care. Just fucking hit me. Just sorry, I swore. You're gonna have to put the
You're
explicit
allowed to.
now.
It's
Yeah, you're gonna have to put the
okay.
thing now. But I mean, that's how I felt.
Kids can't watch it now. Kids
Yeah,
can't listen.
kids. Yeah, just earmuffs for that one part. Well, I don't really think kids need to know about my sexual trauma anyway. We'll save that for when I write a cartoon version that's
There you
about a
go.
fairy princess. But yeah, so that happened. And when it happened, it was one of those divine intervention moments where I literally became, like, to describe it, I was like Wonder Woman. The car was going 35 miles an hour. I rolled on the hood of the car. I rolled in the street. I mean, I should have died. Like I literally should have died. And next thing I know, I'm standing. I'm like standing on 2 feet and I'm like checking my elbows and checking my face. And I'm like, okay, I don't really know what happened here, but I heard you, God, and I got it. Um, and so that was what set me on the path. But I was 29 years old. So now we're 11 years later. I mean, it took me on a whole journey of learning how to heal myself, understanding that what had happened to me was not okay, and really searching for the through line. Like I talk about the arc of your story, right? Like what's the arc of your story, which is also sort of like, what's your karmic path? What are you here to heal? Like, who are you? And I could really see that there was a correlation between my self-worth, my self-esteem, and not wanting to be labeled by other people based on my appearance, based on my self-worth. And that was the thing that was really destroying me, was that, people looked at me and said, oh, well, she's pretty, and oh, she looks like this, so that's who she is. And I was struggling to get help, and no one would ever like listen to me, because they're like, well, you're fine, you're pretty, you can't have trauma, you can't have shame, you have nothing to be ashamed of. And I'm like, no, I have a lot of things that hurt. And so the last 11 years was me learning how to do that for myself, and then learning how to help other people do it as well.
Yeah, I love that you shared, I think one of the things that the listeners can relate to, and then I can relate to, that we can all relate to, is this idea that culturally we are subjected to roles and labels,
right,
as women. I mean, everybody is, but
and
let's
men
just talk
too.
about, right.
Yeah.
I mean, they are too, but we're talking about the divine feminine today, which they also have in them
They
too. Like
do.
we do acknowledge that there is this divine healing collective for the listeners that we're talking about. We're talking about the divine feminine within the masculine as well, and the healthy masculine within the feminine. Like, it is unity, is not a duality. So as I hear you say that, though, one of the things that I'm really identifying with, because today we are really talking more about women, and we're going to dive into, we can talk about the divine feminine that can show up for anybody, but we're going to move a little bit into like shame and trauma and how that sort of creates how we feel about ourselves. And what I heard you say is, it really, the arc of your story really became one of like, questioning your own self-worth to the point of where you walked out in front of a taxi and you're like, yeah, I don't even care anymore. And then that was your life-changing moment. So as we talk about these roles and these labels, because I think this is really, really, really powerful. This is where we start. I mean, even as little girls, right? I mean, like you even said the Disney princess, and I just had to giggle because even as little girls, like we think we're supposed to look or act a certain way, or,
right, yeah.
And then we go off and we have something that we want to do, work that we want to do. So you wanted to be an actress, and you were told, well, this is the type that you're going to be. This is the, the type of role you have to play because you are this. And that doesn't feel good.
Oh,
And
hell no.
no, it doesn't feel good. I mean, as I'm saying it, like I still feel it in my gut, right? Because I know I have my own story around that as well. And I know the listeners do too, that at some point in time, maybe they were told they could or couldn't do something because of a projected identity or role onto them. So as I think about this, because I know the listeners can connect with this, what is happening inside? Like, what is happening within us? Like, how does it feel? Because this is going to take us somewhere and help us to realize what it is that we need to heal. But how is this feeling inside? What is happening to most women? What patterns are we creating? What beliefs are we creating based on these projections of what others think we're supposed to be or look? Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, the biggest thing that I always talk about, and that one of the first things I identify with clients and people who go through my programs, right, is the identifying what I call like the cognitive dissonance between the two, because there's an inner self and there's an outer self, right? And I speak inner and outer because I come from the perspective of the feminine, and not just the feminine, but the feminine through the lens of the Tibetan Buddhist and the feminine Buddha. So we talk about inner and outer, meaning there's an inner self, which is who you know you are, right? Some people will call that the I self, the higher self, the true self. And then you have the outer self, which is more the way people see you in the world, right? Your experiences, your, you know, the like your labels, right? And the things that are happening to you. And there's always a very big separation between the two, right? And it's not just there's a separation, but there's dissonance, there's feedback, there's pain, because who you are and what you experience don't match up. And so you do battle with yourself and you're like, I don't understand. Should I be this or should I be this? I feel like this, but this is what I'm getting. And so, like, which is it? Am I the good person or the bad person? Because I feel like a good person, but everyone tells me I'm a bad person. Or I feel like a good person, but everyone treats me like garbage. And I don't understand this. And this is where I get a little bit sort of miffed at a lot of the language out there, which is the law of attraction and you're creating this and blah, blah, blah. It's like, look, yeah, you are creating it, but it's not your fault because no one ever taught you how to heal the separation between who you are and what's happening. And unless you're taught how to actually solve it at a foundational core level, you're not going to fix it. And so I get really upset when people say, I mean, people come to me all the time. I'm such a good person. Why is this happening to me? I'm doing all the work. Why is this happening to me? And that's how I felt. I was a damn good person, right? I've always been a good person, loving, trusting, compassionate, kind, talented. Like I had everything on paper, but my life was shit. And people would say, oh, that's because you're manifesting it. And I'm like, I don't really think I am manifesting this. I think that people are telling me that this is who I am and I'm buying into it. And so I am manifesting it, but it's not my fault. Stop making it my fault that I'm not, you know? And I think that's it. They're confused. Mm-hmm. It's just confusion. I don't understand why.
Yes. I'm feeling into this and I'm relating to it as well as you're sharing this. Before we get into the question around what are the tools that you use to help people through this, I want to invite you to share a little bit about your training. I don't want to skip over that part because you didn't really share specifically, and I know you've devoted a lot of time and energy to this process. Like a lot of people can just show up on social media and just call themselves something, but you know, there are people that really commit a really large amount of time and energy to their own self-healing, number one, to getting a high level of training and investment and a commitment. And so I just think it's important to invite you to share what your personal devotion has been, because it takes that higher level of devotion and commitment, and just kind of share with us, there's 11 years, but in a nutshell, like
what have I been doing for the last 11 years? Yeah, no, you know what? And I can explain it very simply. It started, obviously it started with a hunger for knowledge, right? And so I wanted to learn. I am the kind of person that I choose a path and I follow it. And I found a very specific teacher who was a man. His name's Derek O'Neill. He was in Ireland, psychotherapist. He was a martial artist. He had like 8 black belts. He is an energy master. He was a samurai. Like, this dude is a cool dude. And so I chose him as my mentor. And I went to his workshops. I went to many of his workshops in Ireland. I received initiations. I did the training. And most importantly, what I did was I spent the entire time watching him, watching how he was doing things, watching how he was working with people, how he was working with the energy, because it's an art, right? It's art. To me, it's an art form to be able to work with subtle energy in that way and transform it. And so that was the main thing that I did. And so I followed him. I I got training in neuro-linguistic programming, so I understood the brain and the way we think. And I studied neuroplasticity, so I started to learn about the brain and how it's plastic and how we can evolve it and heal. And basically, while doing that, putting together my own system of pulling the best of all of it together. And what I've done is I've taken a lot of what I learned from him, which is the high level teachings, the wisdom, the ancient wisdom, and the mastery of the energy, right? That's where the master energy coach comes in. But I've fused it with the techniques of the neuro-linguistic programming and the neuroplasticity, which means that when I'm working with someone, I'm actually working on multiple levels at once. So it's not just energy. I'm doing all the reprogramming of your brain. I'm clearing all of the trauma from the amygdala. I'm resetting the nervous system. So you're getting cellular healing, you're getting neurological programming, and you're getting energy and embodiment all in one. And that is something that I just, like, that's what I've been doing for 11 years. I've been figuring out, okay, how can I do all this in one package, and not just do that, but do it in such a way so that I teach my clients and my students how to do it for themselves, so they're not relying on me. Because that was the one thing I saw, was everybody was relying on the guru. And I was like, hell no, not me. I don't want to be waiting for that guy to tell me what to do. I got to learn how to do this for myself. And so that's what I've been really doing, is creating a method where I can empower people to heal themselves, instead of this, like, I need the guru to
giving your power away.
Being disempowered to a guru.
Exactly. I love that so much. I've recorded a couple different podcasts on that alone, how the future of healing is really in the teaching of the self-healing and empowerment and embodiment. And just for the listeners, if you could just imagine for a second yourself as like an energy body, what she's talking about is healing so many layers deep, like the subconscious, the stuff we're not even conscious and aware of, right? When you're going into healing deep trauma, that's where you're going. And imagine like the energy body holds like the emotional body, the mental body, the physical body. So, I think it's just important for the listeners to understand the depth of this type of work, because there's so many layers to healing. There's the physical body, where we usually start, well, we can eat healthy, we can work out, we can do all that stuff. There's the emotional body, where we experience our pain and our disconnect. There's healing the mindset, we can do work around that. But the subconscious stuff is where it gets really good. And that's where people get stuck. That's where people, if you don't do that depth of healing or work, that's the embodiment piece too, right? The embodiment piece is taking it to the cellular level, to the level where you actually reprogram it, not just the doing. Like, I'm going to do the things, I'm going to write down an affirmation, and that's great. Like, you can write down an affirmation, you can eat healthy, you can do all that. But when you go like levels deep, cellular, healing the subconscious and reprogramming, that's where you really get it's an energy shift. That's why you're an energy coach, because you're actually literally shifting the vibration, the energy body, the energy signature, the frequency of a human being. And before we even started talking, we were talking about, before we started recording, we were talking about the frequencies of emotions. And every food, every emotion, these all have a different vibration, a different frequency. And you talked about one of the deepest wounds right now that you're teaching around and that you've noticed in the divine feminine is the wound around shame, which I think goes back to these roles and identities, right? Like, we're not even meeting the expectation that somebody thinks we're supposed to be, or we're confused about who we're supposed to be, because you use the word confused too. And as I'm kind of going through this in my own mind and thinking about, like, how shame starts to show up. And we talked about how shame is one of the lowest, it's like a really deep core wound. It's one of the lowest vibrational emotions. Tell me a little bit about what you have learned specifically around the divine feminine and shame, because I work with women as well, and I do see this. And I know that this is something that I'm sure many women can relate to. I can definitely relate to shame, right? We can relate to it in our different roles, because maybe it's in our partnership, maybe it's as a mother, maybe it's as a friend, maybe it's as a business owner. There's these roles that maybe we have shame in a certain area. So share with me a little bit about where, like, what you've seen around this, around shame specifically, and yeah, just kind of share some insight on where you
Yeah,
think that comes from and where we're
right,
at in the healing of it.
right. Well, so you're right about the fact that shame. So if you follow the map of consciousness, which is um, something that it's a scale of emotion, right? We have we have the scale of emotion, and the thing that's fascinating to me is that shame is actually what sits at the bottom. Shame is the lowest emotion that we have in the system, right? It's the lowest vibration, although that's not true, because they're what we call bonus emotions, which are so big and so great that they're not on the map of consciousness. They don't even register. They're so powerful. He didn't even put them there. Hawkins didn't put them there, and for a reason, because they're very powerful. And that I'm talking about rage and some of these others. But so shame is at the root, right? And what I discovered is that one of the things that I see when I look at the map of consciousness or the scale of emotion at all is that most people teach you that, there's the bottom and a top. And so you work from the bottom up, right? You want to raise your vibration. You want to raise the level. And that makes sense, but only to a certain extent, because the problem is that shame is the root of everything. It sits in your roots, which means it's in the core of who you are. It's in the foundation. If you are a home, it is in your foundation. So if you have shame in the foundation of your home, there is shame everywhere. There's shame in the walls, there's shame in the bed, there's shame in the food, there's shame in the water. Everything's going to have the vibration of shame. And I'm using the analogy of a home because it just makes sense, right? The foundation. And so what I realized is that this is actually when we drill down and we dig deeper and we dig deeper, and I'm a deep digger. Like, I ask my clients, I take them on what I call the in and down, which is a backwards, it's a reverse healing. We're going deeper and deeper and deeper into the depths on purpose, because I want them to excavate their shame. I want them to find the roots of their shame. I want them to know why the shame is there. And what happens is that then it's like a portal, and it's actually a gateway to everything you want. The only thing, this is something that I've just recently discovered, the only thing that's stopping you from having everything you want is actually shame. It's not fear, it's not grief, none of those. It is shame. That's what separates you from everything. Because shame is the emotion that people use to say, you can't have that. You're not allowed to do that. You can't be that. People use shame as a weapon to stop you from owning your power.
Yes.
And it's what gaslighting is. It's what I've been thinking about the Scarlet Letter a lot, right? That story, Hester Prynne. That is shame 101, right? You are wrong for being who you are. You created this trauma. You should be ashamed of yourself. Let me show you how to, raise your vibration. And I'm like, fuck that. Let me show you how to dig so deep that nobody can ever tell you who you are ever again. Let me show you how powerful you really are. And it's got nothing to do with any of that stuff that people told you. It has to do with the fact that you can't let anybody shame you into not facing yourself.
Yep.
And that's a karmic wound. It's in every goddess. Every goddess has the wound of shame. The walk of shame, right? Every goddess has it. Persephone has it. Athena has it. Sedna has it. Vesta has it. Hathor has it. This is how they've been controlling the feminine the whole time. They've been saying, you're bad. You're wrong. You get out of here. It's Lilith. It's Eve. You did this. This is your fault. You're the reason why we're all suffering. You should be ashamed of yourself. Go sit in your corner. So we separate ourselves from ourselves, and then we become isolated, and we can't be happy, and we can't enjoy ourselves because of shame. I'm telling you, it is like the mother of all wounds. It is the mother wound.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm super
And like,
jazzed about like,
yes,
like if you had talked to me a few weeks
you're
ago, I wouldn't have had this, but this is new. And I'm like,
there's like fire coming through this. This is why we weren't meant to talk
I
like a
know
couple
I
weeks
didn't
ago,
have
because
the
I am
shame.
no, and I'm
It
like,
then.
and I'm so, it's interesting because I just had my own experience around that, around a feminine relationship. So it's just like, I love synchronicities. It's just like,
Yeah, it's perfect
I love
timing.
that. Yes, it is. And I want to invite you to share what is shame? How does it show up? Because I know one of the first defense mechanisms can be like, I don't have shame. Not me. It's fear. Fear is my lowest vibration. Like, so can you share with us a little bit, like, just what it is? And I know that you shared like through the goddesses, but maybe just kind of some of the ways that it might show up that we might
Totally.
not consciously be aware of.
Totally. Yeah. So because I'm in the throes of a cycle of my program right now, Fiercely Feminine, and that's where I teach women all about this. They are uncovering as we speak their relationship with shame. And it's fascinating because when they joined the program, they wanted to heal from trauma, right? They wanted to recover from things that had happened to them. And to take their power back. That's why they joined the program, right? They joined because they know that there's something that they don't have that they want. And so I've got a lot of examples just because I'm fresh in it right now. And this is where I finally saw this so clearly. The conversations are around things like, wow, I go to speak up for myself and people don't hear me. And then I decide, you know what? No one's going to listen to me anyway. I'll just go eat this whole pizza.
Yes.
Right? Like, I'm going to eat the whole pizza because no one gives a shit about me anyway. So I may as well just stuff my face with this food and cover myself up. Right? That's shame doing that. That is shame. That's a shame-driven response. The same thing goes for, like, I used to do this and I take full ownership. I used to sleep with men very easily. Like, I didn't really get to know them. I slept with them because I thought that would bring me closer. That was shame. That was a shame-driven response, a shame-driven action, because I was so ashamed of myself that I couldn't even bear to let anybody get to know me. So I would go straight to sex, thinking sex would solve the problem. That was shame. Mm-hmm. Choosing unavailable men, choosing verbally abusive men, the overeating, the shopping, going, like, I had to think, these are all things I have, right? I would go to like TJ Maxx and I would buy like whatever was on sale and I would just buy it because it was there. That was shame, because it was covering anything that covers you up. If it covers you up, it's shame, right? If it's layering it on because it's food, shame. If it's using a relationship to numb your feelings, shame. If it's buying stuff you don't need, shame. If it's doing a program. Well, right? Yeah, I was going to say busyness. If you like are a serial entrepreneur buying program after program after, I know, because I just went through this. I just did this big ass program, right? And it was like, this is going to solve my problem. They're going to tell me what's wrong with me. And by the end of it, I was like, oh my God, it's shame. I'm ashamed of myself. So I want to pay 15 grand for somebody to fix me. Great lesson, because it's like, oh, now I get it. But it's anything that keeps you from being with yourself. It's not actually fear, it's shame.
Giving your power away.
Yeah, shame.
That's, as I hear you, like, that's the common thread and all of that is like, so this is going to be the program that saves me, or this is going to be the outfit that makes me feel good, or this is going to be the food that makes me feel good, or this is going to be the guy that's going to make me feel good or love me, or whatever. This is the
answer.
Yeah.
This is the answer.
Searching for whatever it is that you need outside of yourself, which takes me to my next question. If we're experiencing shame, what is it that we need?
My belief is that the antidote to shame is love and acceptance, and compassion. Now, again, I come from sort of a Tibetan Buddhist perspective, even though I'm not technically, but I probably was in many lives. That is my feeling, because most people will actually try and shame you into getting rid of your shame. And they'll say, oh, no, I'm serious. I'm serious.
No, I know, as you say
I just had this happen to me. Oh, you can't have any trauma in your body. If you have any trauma in your body, you're never going to be successful. So let me give you this $1 million solution, and I'm going to rid you of your shame, because you have shame, and because you have shame, you should be ashamed. And I was like, wait, what? No, you're not taking my shame away. I can have my shame. Don't you tell me that I can't have it. And that was what like lit this fire in me, where I just went like, I went like beast mode and was like, you are never going to do that to me, and I will not let you do that to anyone else. Mm-hmm. Don't you dare tell anybody that they can't have an emotion in their body that isn't positive, and that makes them wrong. So I say it's love and acceptance, because here's the deal. If you can love and accept yourself for who you are, you won't be ashamed anymore.
Exactly.
It dissolves.
Take that away from you.
It just dissolves on its own. And you're like, you know what? I'm okay with myself. So it's actually it's the path to healing and wholeness, because my thing is, I think that there's no such thing as, like, why would you want to eliminate the depths of who you are? Don't you take my shame away, because those are my roots. Mm-hmm. That's my foundation. That's how I grew into this woman that I am. You take away my shame. Why? Why would you strip me of the thing that makes me me? Yeah. How dare you do that? How dare you tell me I have to play this part or that part? I am showing up as all of me. And if you're not okay with that, then you can buzz off, right? And if you can't handle it, if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. But that's the key. And I know it because I've lived it, and I tried to solve it forever. I tried to solve it and tried to solve it. I get the gurus. I'm like, what do I do? How do I fix myself? What's the problem? And then it was like, oh, wow, you know what? If I can just be okay with the fact that I feel ashamed of who I am, or that there's shame in my body, or there's pain in my body, somehow that's going to help me. And it did, because it brought me to the realization that it's not about eliminating. That's like cutting your arm off. Oh, exactly. Your arm has shame in it. Let's get a saw. Yeah. Don't cut my arm off. Don't cut my leg off. I don't amputate. You don't have to amputate shame. Mm-hmm. Screw that.
Yeah. Own it. Give yourself permission to feel it.
Yeah.
Maybe and transmute it. Transmute it into a program.
Right. And that's the thing that, again, like when women come into my program, they're looking for healing, right? They're looking for a way to recover from what has happened to them, because they've been through trauma. And what they find by the end is that they don't need to recover from the trauma. They need to love and accept themselves and be okay with the fact that the trauma happened. And by being okay with the fact that the trauma happened, the trauma loses its power, which negates the shame, which allows them to show up for who they are, which just fixes everything. All of a sudden, they're like, wow, like I have a woman going through right now, and she just wrote yesterday, and she said, for the first time in my life, I went to order lunch, and I ordered the mini sub. I didn't need the foot-long sandwich and chips. I knew this was all I needed, and I just did it naturally. This is the first time in my life that I haven't used food to numb my feelings. And I was like, yes, boom, that is a win. That is success. That's what it looks like. And then I had another girl, and she said, yeah, and I actually stopped smoking pot, and I used to smoke pot every day. I couldn't be without it. And I stopped. I just stopped. I just don't want it. And I'm like, that's a win. Because the habits, right, the things that you do, I bit my nails for years. I have gorgeous fingernails, right? And I just stopped one day. I was a ferocious nail biter. And then one day I'm like, oh my God, I have gorgeous nails. How did I do this? I don't know. I guess I stopped hating myself. Mm-hmm. And when I stopped hating myself, I stopped ripping myself apart. And my nails, I just, like in a day, all of a sudden I had gorgeous nails. I'm like, now this isn't a sign of love. I don't know.
Well, and it makes me think of, one that's current right now is that I notice that can happen for people is easily just mindlessly scrolling on social media. It's just a way to check out, right? Well, it's there's a healthy balance in that, but noticing when you're doing it because you're still seeking something outside of yourself, or you're seeking to feel a certain way, or you're just checking out, you're numbing out.
Oh, yeah. No. Yeah. And I've been working really hard on that one. And I literally only just stopped doing that. And I realized I was doing it because I was worried, oh my God, this person's gaining followers, I'm losing followers, like not enough people liked my post, not, you know, and then I realized, wait a minute, I'm missing the point here. Mm-hmm. And since that, right, I started making these posts about talking about shame. And I'm like, you know what? People don't like it. They don't love it. They don't leave comments, but I'm getting a lot of like positive feedback. People are responding privately. People are opting in. People are signing up. People want it. So that's a sign too, that it's like, you know what? All of that stuff that we think we need, like we don't actually need it. And if you're not ashamed of yourself, you're going to stop like grasping for all this crap that's irrelevant. And social media, I mean, other than connecting with the people that need you and that you need, it's all bullshit. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all an absolute load of crap.
Yeah.
And I know, because I did it for years. Post this pretty picture, write this quote. I wasn't doing it because it was important to me. I was doing it because I wanted to give the illusion that I was perfect.
Yeah. You know, as I'm hearing you speak to, one thing that came up for me too, that I heard in the words that you shared, is the idea that there's shame in, I was going to say like spirituality and like awakening or self-help, or you mentioned law of attraction, and I totally resonate with what you said. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that, because I really feel this. I felt it with sort of like where we've been the past 6 months. You know, this pandemic and Black Lives Matter was really bringing out people who were like, you know, had this like, you need to do your homework, you need to go read those books, you're really, you know, and there was a lot of like labeling again that was again just keeping us separate. Do you wear the mask? Do you not wear the mask? Do you know, all of these things, right? So we're in this right now. Right. And I'm just kind of noticing that there sadly there is shame around sort of like the idea that there's like this kind of spiritual awakening process that people go through, and if you're not doing your self-work, shame on you. There's that part of it too, right? Yeah. So, and you mentioned how somebody was shaming you for still having shame, and I think that's a really important point.
Really
to just
messed up, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just like, it's like it's a double-edged sword. I mean, it's just like, okay, so it doesn't, it's like there's an internal conflict in that alone. And so what I'm hearing you say is that it really just comes down to the acceptance of where you are. This came through one of my earlier podcasts, the quote with a doctor that I recorded with, who wrote the book, The Power of the Mind in Health and Healing. But he said, healing is in the acceptance of where you are. And I think it was such a great quote. I carry it through all the time. And I noticed that resonated with you too. It's actually quite simple. It's like, sometimes so really what I want to paint the picture of is like, there's a balance. I call it the balance of being and becoming. It's like the balance of expanding and contraction, the balance of like we have seasons, right? We have, in winter we don't grow, the plants don't grow, in summer they bloom. We as humans, we also need this balance. I think that there is a time to grow and expand and be okay with the desire to change or fix something. And then there's a point where you get to where you're okay with where you are. I'm curious how this shows up in your life, and how do you know, what tool, what check-in do you use to know where you are in that process?
Right. No, that's fabulous. That quote is fabulous. I love that. And what I've really had to do is check, you know, I did just finish this program, and I worked with a mindset coach. And what was really interesting was that when I worked with this particular, he was supposed to be doing hypnotherapy. And with me, he was like, no, you don't need hypnotherapy, because hypnotherapy is going to check you out, right? Like it's going to actually dilute the feelings that you have. And it's going to help you avoid what it is that you really need to do. So let's talk about it instead. And one of the things that he and I talked about was, he talked about this, like the return on your investment, right? Is it increasing or decreasing? And I just loved it so much, because I could see that I had a lot of habits that were limiting my return investment on my own life. Right? Like feeling ashamed, trying to be a certain way, withholding love, like judgment, right? Beating myself up. Those were limiting my ability to be in the world. And it was causing me to contract and disappear and hide. And I wanted to resolve that because I felt like, you know what? I don't want to live my life like that. I don't want to live my life like either either I'm doing this thing and I'm nailing it and I have everything fixed and solved and I have all the answers, or I'm terrified and I'm hiding. Like, I really didn't like that dance of the in out, right? It comes back to what we said at the beginning. I didn't like that yo-yo of I'm okay, I'm not okay. I'm okay, I'm not okay. Am I okay? I thought I was okay. Now I don't know. Oh my God. Like now I should buy another book, or now I should read. Like that was the cycle. And I have to say that between COVID and Black Lives Matter and all of this, like I am continually learning, right? I am not going to get everything right, but I know that I'm a good person, and I know that my intentions are good. And so I'm always doing the best I can. And I'm learning, right? And I want to learn. So I think that that's how I know that I'm doing my best every single day, is if I stay in that space of open vulnerability, learning, doing my best, right? That's how I know that I'm in the flow, right? Sometimes I speak like Dr. Seuss. That's how I know I'm in the flow. And it feels really good to be able to, something else he and I talked about, he said, you just got to lean into this comfort a little bit more, right? You got to be open to the fact that shit might fly in your face, but like you gotta keep going. Because what I would do is something like Black Lives Matter would come up and I'd get scared and I'd say, oh my God, like what if I say the wrong thing, and like what if I haven't done enough work, and what if well, this person says that I'm a bad person because of this, and then that would pull me out of life, pull me out of love, pull me out of existence. And I just decided I don't want to play that game anymore. And so I try to just lean in, know that things are going to come up, and just live the experience of being alive, which eliminates the need to reach some mythical place. Everybody talks about 5D and this and that. You're right. Spirituality and all of that. It's a very strange conversation because people do shame you. They shame you for having your own belief system. They shame you for not following theirs. They shame you for not being enlightened. They shame you for not being in 5D. And I'm like, you know what? Last time I checked, I came here to be, if I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, then by golly, I'm going to be the best damn human I can. I don't need to be a deity floating on a cloud, because that's not what I came here for.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you just kind of tied all that in. And thank you for elaborating on that, because I really do feel that that is something that I've noticed that has come up over the past couple of months. I noticed it through social media posting, and it didn't feel good as I was just sort of noticing it happen between people. And so I think what we're saying, what we've agreed on and what we've shared today for the listeners, is there's this idea that we can so easily give our power away. And so like what you just shared is and what I have shared in other podcast episodes as well, and that I agree with, is like every opportunity of leaning into the discomfort is an opportunity to go within and just be present with whatever it is, and don't label it, don't judge it, don't make it wrong, don't shame it, just be with it. Like, just start there, there. And what I also love that you shared, for the listeners who were maybe looking for some type of support in their life, one of the things that's really empowering and that I love about your work is it's really important to connect with somebody who's going to give you tools to become your own healer, right? That's what this podcast is, the embodied healing self. I mean, we were all born resilient, abundant, healing. Like, everything on an energetic level has the ability to regenerate, to heal. It's our thoughts, our emotions, our patterns, our beliefs around it that keep us contracted or small. So you have tools that you share. One of them is the Shakti bomb method. I know we haven't specifically dove into too deep around it, but it is your trademarked method that you do use. It's one of the tools that you teach women. And I'm just wondering if you could just share a little bit about, you did share about, you know, the emotional eating and the not smoking pot, those two examples, but what are the feelings on the other side? What are most women seeking that they don't know yet? Because maybe they don't know that shame is covering these things, but there's a desired feeling. There is acceptance. And I think we can say there's acceptance on the surface, but there's also like something underneath. There's like a feeling we all want. What are women feeling or experiencing when they go through your program? And take us just a little bit deeper than acceptance.
I mean, it's really quite simple. I think we all want the same thing, right? We want freedom, we want peace, and we want ownership, right? Sovereignty. That's been a big theme for me, is I didn't want anyone else to be in control of my destiny, my karma, right? My path. Because I felt like no matter how hard I tried, I kept ending up in a box. I kept ending up in prison. I kept ending up in the cave. And I'm like, I don't like this. I get up, I do my best, and I'm getting slammed. I'm getting beat up by life, and I didn't ask for this. So I think that that's the feeling. It's not just like the liberation and the sovereignty and the peace, right? It's the knowing. It's the full ownership of like, wow, not only do I feel free, do I feel at peace, do I feel happy, do I feel blissful? But I always tie in every meditation I do when I'm doing a guided meditation. One of the things I always say is, this belongs to you and you created it, right? This belongs to you and you created it. And I will repeat that over and over again, because I want the subconscious mind to take on full ownership of, yes, this does belong to me and I created this. And it changes everything, because one, it gives you the feeling of the love and acceptance, right? Which is beautiful, but it also gives you the permission to choose what happens. You get to choose what happens next, right? Yep. And that's what I love so much, because for me, I was tired of literally being sexually assaulted repeatedly. And I'm like, I surely I'm not, why would I choose this? I want to know how to stop this. I don't want to be beaten up by life. I don't want to be put down. I don't want to be verbally assaulted. I don't want to be physically assaulted. I don't want to be disrespected. I don't want to be disempowered. I don't want any of that anymore. That's the shame, right? I'm ashamed of the fact that that keeps happening. So I want to know in my heart, in my body, in my mind, in my being, in my soul, that I have permission and full ownership of what happens next. No more suffering. Mm-hmm. No more drama. It's Lauryn Hill, no more drama, right? That's my theme song. No more drama, no more pain, no more suffering. And if it does happen, I know that I'm responsible for it, and I know what to do to get myself out of it. So I'm never going to get stuck again. Mm-hmm. No more caves, no more isolation, no more being beaten up for nothing. Too many women suffer from that type of stuff. The unjustified assault, emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it's serious.
100%. And the deeper wound around is that women do it to each other.
Right. And we do it to each other too, because, you know, it happens.
Because we have our own.
And we don't know. Yeah. And we don't know how to free ourselves of it. So we dump it on each other. And, and it's just that, it's like the full ownership of freedom, total liberation. I think that that's what we're all looking for, is just the trust and the knowing that we have, that we can survive, that we can, it's that song too. It's I Will Survive, right? And knowing that we can do this on our own.
I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt that said something like, nobody can make you feel something without your permission. I can't remember. I don't know if you're familiar with that one. You know, that's always just, that idea is always stuck with me. Like, it's another way that we give our power. Like, somebody can't make you feel a certain way without you somehow noticing
Right.
it. But I think the
Yeah.
difference is like having ownership in a way that feels like that feeling of acceptance. Like there's a feeling to it rather than like a grit to it. You know what I mean? Like I think the feminine way of owning it is like just in the embodiment and the acceptance of it without, again, judging it or labeling it or even having an attachment to it or
Right.
even just making it wrong or something that has to be healed, but just like just being in the truth of it, really.
Right.
Just the
Right.
simple truth.
Right. And the one thing I didn't say that's like, I think also it's safety, right? It's safety, meaning again, you're safe to be who you are. No one's coming to throw you in a cave or
Burn you
coming.
at the stake.
Right. No, seriously. And I mean,
Yeah,
like
I
you
know.
laugh, but it's written into all the stories. I mean,
Yeah.
it's what happened over and over again. Banishment, annihilation, like all of that. And it's not just witches in the United States. It's not just that the story of the witches, it's the goddesses themselves, right? It's the stories of what happened to the goddesses themselves. A lot of them have been very, very, very hurt and didn't feel safe. I didn't feel safe. And that's the thing, is the feminine, like if we're going to tie it up in a neat little bow and like, what is this all about? The fact is that the feminine itself, divine feminine energy in its own embodiment and consciousness, was literally ripped apart, ripped apart and destroyed, annihilated, beaten. So anyone who has the wounds of the feminine, you feel this, you feel the pain, you feel the suffering, you feel the sadness. I didn't really understand it either. I'm like, what on earth is this about? Why do I feel this so strongly? And that's why I say, don't let anybody shame you into feeling your shame, because the shame is the thing that connects you to the feminine, which is your power. You take that back. You have everything that was taken from you. Everything. You deserve that. You should have everything you deserve in life. And the only thing stopping you is shame. I really firmly, but I've never seen it so clearly where I can see the line. I can see it.
Yeah. So you're going to be teaching on this. You have a workshop coming up, but this podcast will come out after that. And I'm thinking that you might be doing it again.
I will be doing it repeatedly. I have a feeling. So you come to me, you come to my Instagram, you come to my website. I'm pretty sure it's always going to say something about joining a workshop on healing shame. So it doesn't matter when this comes out. It's too late now. This is me and I've arrived. I'm not changing.
This is the next chapter, next level.
The next chapter. Yeah. And then God knows what comes from here. But this is, I think that this is like the foundation. I'm building my whole foundation on shame, because I know that shame is the root of all. And it can either give you everything you want or destroy you. And I am tired of it destroying people. So this will be my message. I mean, forever, I will teach you how to use shame to get everything you want.
And it's a choice. That's the beautiful part. Like, you get to choose. Does it destroy you, or does it make you who you are? Because you choose.
Right.
Thank you so much for all that you shared today. And would you be willing just to share where people can find you, or anything that you do have up and coming? I know you also have your Fiercely Feminine Boot Camp. I think you're just finishing this round. I don't know if you have it coming up again. I'm going to have the links in the show notes as well, but just to share.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing to do, right, is I'm very active on Instagram, so you can find me on Instagram. And you'll have the link there, but my handle is I am Katie Kozlowski. That's pretty much the best way to find me. You find me on Instagram, follow me there. And then from there, go in my bio, and there will always be a link to what I'm offering, whether it's, free, the free boot camp, or other free tools that I have. That's really the best way. Or you can go to my website, and there's always stuff there.
Meditations and all kinds of tools.
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of juicy stuff. But I mean, the best thing to do is just, I'm a connector, right? Like, I love to connect. So if you listen to this podcast and you like what I stand for and you want to connect with me, seriously, follow me on Instagram and shoot me a DM and say, hey, I heard you on this podcast. I love what you had to say. How can I learn more? And I will personally get back to you. I am very devoted to helping. And so that's the best way.
Katie, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being on the show, for just being a beautiful goddess of healing in the world. Really just
Thank
want you to
you.
know that I see you, I appreciate you, I love all that you stand for, and I'm just really grateful to be given the space to share your message today.
Thank
So thank you for your
you.
time and your
Oh, thank
devotion.
you. Oh, no, I am honored. Very, very honored. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure. And thank you so much to the listeners. We'll see you back on the show next week. Be sure to check out the links in the show notes so that you can find out where to find Katie. Thank you so much. Have a great day.